Hi, this is Jingyan. So in this video, we'll be investigating whether behavior is innate or learned. At some point in our lives, or in biology class, we have all thought about the nature versus nurture debate and wondered whether our behavior is attributed to our biology or our environment. This question is very important in the branches of biological, cognitive, and social-cultural psychology, and although there is no set answer to this day, we can understand behavior in more detail by looking at studies supporting both sides of this argument. The first argument is that behavior is innate. This means that our responses are instinctive and controlled by genes, suggesting that behavior is largely unaffected by the environment. Twin studies are often used to understand this phenomenon, since twins possess the same DNA and any differences in their behavior can be attributed to social factors. The Minnesota twin studies conducted by Bouchard et al. In 1990 involved monozygotic twins reared together, monozygotic twins reared apart, dizygotic twins reared together, and biological siblings reared together. Researchers aimed to investigate the extent to which genes affected intelligence, so these participants were interviewed and had IQ tests for 20 years to conclude the degrees of similarity between their intelligence levels. As we can see from the data collected, monozygotic twins have especially high concordance rates regardless of the environments in which they had grown up in. Bouchard et al. Concluded that intelligence is 70% inherited, suggesting that some aspects of individuals are in fact innate and unaffected by the environment. The second argument is that behavior is learned. Using ideas from epistemology, otherwise known as our favorite subject, TOK, learning is defined as the acquisition of knowledge through personal experiences such as association or observation. There are many theories explaining how behavior is learned, but for now, we are just going to focus on two of the most well-known branches, behaviorism and cognition. Behaviorists aim to understand behavior by only studying the behavioral outcomes that are observable to us. This was established in the 1890s by Pavlov, who serendipitously studied classical conditioning in dogs. Before conditioning, dogs were exposed to dog food and began to salivate upon seeing this food. However, they did not salivate upon hearing the ringing of a bell. During conditioning, the bell was rung whenever dog food was presented, causing the dogs to salivate. After this conditioning, the dogs salivated whenever they heard the bell ring, regardless of whether there was dog food or not. In other words, this salivation upon hearing the bell is a conditioned behavior, since it did not occur naturally at first, but was displayed only after conditioning. From this, we have understood associative learning. Once we learn to link unrelated stimuli together, we start to behave in the same way when exposed to either stimuli. On the other hand, learned behavior can also be explained through the cognitive approach, which emphasizes on the mental processes involved in making decisions about behavior. In 1961, Bandura et al. Carried out an experiment with children and a Bobo doll to test if behavior, particularly aggression, could be learned from others. This experimental study involved young children who either watched an adult violently abuse a Bobo doll or interact neutrally with it. These children were then brought to a room with the same Bobo doll, while researchers observed the behavior demonstrated by these children. Needless to say, only the children who watched the violent adult imitated their aggressive behavior. This experiment is instrumental in the field of cognitive psychology, since it explains observational learning and how our behavior is shaped and influenced by those around us. Unfortunately, we still do not have a definite answer to the nature versus nurture question, but we can still assume that both biological and social factors influence our behavior to a certain extent. Although the findings of these studies may seem purely theoretical at first, we can actually observe how elements of our own behavior are either genetically inherited or influenced by our environment. The most obvious example is noticing similarities in behavior between yourself and a sibling, or twin, either in intelligence or personality. Examples regarding learned behavior include advertisements, which condition us to feel a certain way about a specific product, as well as programs serving educational purposes, such as educational TV shows and school, which both use models to demonstrate the behavior they want us to learn. In this video, we have covered 3 points. First, innate behavior is mostly controlled by genes, as opposed to our environment. On the other hand, learned behavior is acquired through association or observation and can be split into behaviorist and cognitive approaches. Lastly, although we cannot confidently determine whether behavior is innate or learned, We can see examples of these around us, including genetic similarities, advertisements, and learning environments. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.